This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio joining halftime here for a weekly segment. Always appreciate his time. And Bill, it's been a very interesting few days here in Razorback land. Heck, it's been an interesting few days all across college football. Then make it a little smaller. The SEC West, wow, the last couple of days. Arkansas, yeah, kind of fit right into that. How you doing? How much are you enjoying watching this from the outside?
So many stories, and this happens to me most every day where, and I don't know if it happens to you guys, a couple hours later after your show, something hit you that you wished you'd have gotten to, right? You just didn't get to it. And that happens on a regular basis. Yesterday and today, there's about 10 things I didn't get to that I wanted to. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, we just kind of touched on this Mississippi State, Texas A&M, both of them doing coaches searches. What's the big difference? Because they're going to be two totally different searches. What are some of the candidates you're hearing for both these jobs?
Well, let's begin with Mississippi State. Other than Vanderbilt, it's likely the toughest gig in the league. Not saying you can't win some there, because I've seen coaches dating back to Jackie Sherrill before he got in trouble, Dan Mullen. I've seen teams win there, but it's a very, very difficult job to win at inside the SEC, considering who all your neighbors are. And I don't know if these are the candidates, but I would go after Rich Rodriguez, who's perfect. He's over there at Jacksonville State for a place that has to rely on overachieving. At Mississippi State, you have to overachieve. And Rich Rod is a quarterback guy. I can promise you he'd have a quarterback ready immediately to install, and that offense would be good. It's what he does. The other side of the ball would be a work in progress. They usually have some talent on defense. That's the kind of name. Would you reach back after Dan Mullen and see if he'd want to give it another try? Don't know if he would or wouldn't. That might be a conversation. And with A&M, it's a fantastic gig, unlimited resources. I would flirt with Mike Oko. I would flirt with Lance Leipold. Dan Lanning says he's not coming. I believe him. I don't think that's just coaches talk. I do believe he's not going to leave Oregon. And I think that when the Alabama job comes open, that might be their choice someday. So he can sit back, make all that money at Oregon, and play good ball. But A&M is a fantastic job. A&M is the most untapped, could-be big brand in America, and it has been that way for quite some time.
Well, then why have they never? Why are they middling? Why are they such a mediocre program? They pack the stadium. They've got more money than almost any program in the country. They've got all this talent around them. They had the SEC to themselves as far as Texas is concerned for a long time. Why has A&M never put it together?
Leadership, head coach. They never hire the right head coach that sustains. I've seen R.C. Slocum have a good run. Jackie Sherrill again. Jackie Sherrill had a really good run there. But it's always about the hires. They don't hire the guy that's the right fit. This notion that it's all about the players and that's all that matters, and if you just throw enough talent out there, you're going to win, is a huge lie. If you don't get the right head coach in place, none of that other stuff matters. It all gets negated, and you have to nail the hire, and that's what they have not been doing, basically historically.
Yeah, even Sumlin had a little run there. Bill, yeah. I look up and I see Louisville 9-1. I don't know who their coach is right now, but is this sustainable? Is this a real thing? Is Louisville for a real 9-1 team, or has their schedule been soft?
Jeff Brom is a brilliant offensive mind. He's a Louisville guy, played there. The whole family is Louisville. Did a really good job at Purdue with the limitations you have there. Their schedule was not very tough this year. That's part of it. But I figured they'd be much improved. They will always be, when there's a Jeff Brom coaching, that offense will always be active. And frankly, I think they'll be a lot better in the future than they are offensively. And it's not a very good league. So couple those two things together, and you have that opportunity that he's taking advantage of. But no, that's the Brom family, which is all about Louisville, guys. They're as much about that school as any family is about any other school.
Yeah, I remember Brom. I think he was around my age. I don't know if he was 15 for some reason. I want to say he was 15, but he was a big, strong kid that could throw it.
Jeff Brom, you got Brian Brom. His dad's a longtime coach. The whole family. And, they tried to get him a couple of years prior when he was at Purdue and he didn't leave. For whatever reason, the timing wasn't good. But this time when it was presented to him a year ago, then it was time to go back home. The old Bear Bryant mama called, and he's back where he needs to be.
I want to go back to Jimbo here. You look at what happened at Mississippi State. You had a guy who was not ready to be a head coach in Zach Arnett that was asked to do something that feels impossible when you look at it. A&M's a totally different story. You had a guy who'd won a national title at Florida State. What was wrong with how Jimbo handled that program? Why did it not work there for him?
The main reason would be quarterback. Now, Kellen Mond early on was a good quarterback for them. You remember, he put up a lot of yards. Quarterback hadn't been right. They have not been right at quarterback. And you could say that he hadn't been right, Jimbo, since Jameis Winston. Now, he's had some serviceable quarterbacks, but frankly, it just hasn't been the same. And not that you're going to replace an equal talent to Jameis Winston next time you go get a guy, but that's been the main problem. Probably not real well coached. They're not real well coached on defense. You could argue they have the best defensive line and deepest defensive line in the SEC. Guys, you want to know how much they think about that defensive line? The defensive line coach is the interim head coach. Now, why do you think they did that? Because that's the one group they want to keep happy and keep out of the portal. Yep. That's exactly why they did that.
I got to ask you about Arkansas. I don't know how much of the Auburn game you watched because it got out of hand really quickly. But just the idea that they'd played this series of close games, finally pulled one out in a place they'd never pulled one out before, Florida, and then that happens. I mean, how does that happen? I can't answer that question.
I got to just say it. That's the sign of a poorly coached team. That doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. If you're stable, I'm not saying you have to win that game, but to have it completely unravel like that is poor leadership. I don't know what Sam needs to do specifically. Obviously, we've got the portal coming up here in about 2 weeks. That's big. Recruiting is big. But that's the sign of a poorly coached team. It is. And I'm worried about it. I would give Sam Pittman after this next year way less than a 50% chance of making it.
Yeah, they'll have to turn it around next year. It was Brian Brom, actually. He was number 12. He was the quarterback at Louisville, I was thinking.
He was good.
Yeah. Bill, is up there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It has to be a little bit of a distraction. How much do you think it, not this week, but next week, do you think it affects him at all? And do you see any way that something happens where actually Coach Harbaugh is on the sideline that game?
It does nothing but motivate the team. It's not a negative at all. And they're a very physical team. Guys, you realize for the last 2.5 quarters of that Penn State game, they did not throw the football. 3rd and 12, they ran the football. Now, you can't do that against Georgia. If you see them in the future playoffs, you're not going to beat Georgia that way. But they are very impressive. They're physical. They're well coached. And I have no idea. If this is a 3-game suspension, and again, the courts and the temporary restraining order and all that we haven't heard back from yet, I'd go ahead and just take the 3 games. You're going to get Ohio State at home. You're going to be favored by probably 4 points or so. Right now, I think they're the better team. They are physically better than Ohio State, even though that Ohio State defense is much improved this year, but their offense isn't. It's not as good as when they had Stroud and some of those other receivers, other than Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Michigan is sitting in a fantastic spot, regardless of the Harbaugh story.
It's funny. Last year, you had a Georgia team that just had to make up a bunch of crap that nobody believed in them, and they go on and they blow everybody out, winning the national title. Now you get Michigan, and I don't think that this is a distraction to them at all because they used the 3-game suspension early in the season as motivation to beat the living crap out of everybody they played. And It seems to me they can use this as outside motivation, just kind of from the outside. I mean, they're trying to call themselves America's team, which I think is hilarious because I think a lot of America is rooting against Michigan now, but that's only going to make them more steadfast in how they believe about their program and about their coach and about what they're doing. I think in the grand scheme of it, in this season that we're watching now, I mean, it's motivating them.
Funniest thing, you guys might have been busy watching the game, but post-game, Sharon Moore, they're interviewing him on Fox Network television, and in the interview, he drops an S-bomb and an F-bomb. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.